sort of how we, and I mean, our desire is to build leaders in the Jewish community. So if they're going to be working in the Jewish community to make global justice a key issue for the Jewish community, then they have to be able to speak the language of the Jewish community. So a lot of, there's sort of a dual purpose. One is just for the desire that they should explore their Jewish identity, and also because we want them to be versed in Jewish tradition so that they can change the Jewish community.
I think that the two ideas Chazon very much sees as tied in and connected, and that they don't have to be adversarial, and are very much, the gleaning example I said at the beginning is sort of a perfect example of that. But I'd say even more strongly that I think that, you know, Jewish tradition also needs to be able to be looking at the challenges of the world today. And if we don't do that, then we are really going to be, you know, just losing opportunity. And that is, as Chazon thinks about renewing and reframing Jewish tradition, that is about bringing it into the lives that we're leading, the lives our students, those we're educating, are leading. I feel like, to me, that's a piece of whether it was, you know, Jewish education or my secular education that always drove me crazy, right? I mean, something huge would be happening in the world, but like it was time to study ancient China, so that's what you did. And I feel like that is just a, I think that's also what people are calling and asking for more and more, and I think that's true for people in their 20s and 30s, and I think it goes on down where we have the opportunity for people who want to do their Bar Bat Mitzvah project to be raising money through the New York Ride or our Israel Ride, where the money goes to support Chazon and the Arba Institute. And these Bar Bat Mitzvah kids are superstars. They, you know, see this as such an opportunity to be able to be talking about, you know, the issues that they care about, and, you know, what they do and how they take this on continues to blow my mind. That it just, you know, people want to be engaged in the world today, and it's our obligation to be able to say how Jewish tradition is about the world today as well. And I think it's worth also just bringing up, as I just mentioned, Israel, like the Israel conversation, which has become, you know, so tenuous and fraught and political, that there is just really important opportunities to be able to have Israel in the conversation of social justice, in the work that we are doing, the Arba Institute's work, where they are bringing together people to look at the environmental challenges in this most sort of delicate land of the Middle East, is just an incredible lens of what also education can look like when you bring people across huge differences together to be able to learn, as examples of how that difference can play out as opportunities in classrooms again and again.
That was great. I want to actually open it up to you guys if you have questions. I mean, the panelists brought up a lot of challenges, entry points, viewpoints of social justice education, models. So, what are your questions?
I'm just going to ask for the filming, if you guys could repeat the question after they ask it, it'll be easier than trying to point at every person.
I think the struggle, there's a lot of really awesome and great organizations, like who are doing phenomenal things like all of you are talking about, and the big struggle, I would guess, I'm going to speak for everyone, though I know that I shouldn't speak for everyone likely, is how that translates into our organizations. And other than recruiting for your programs or using some of the curriculum, like translating the big ideas of what you're doing into what we're doing, and everyone's doing something really differently, so this is not something you can really respond to in one sentence. But that's, I think, the takeaway part of this is the hardest part.
So the question was, how do we translate the big ideas that each of these organizations is focused on into the actual classroom or setting or congregation that you're working with? So maybe two of you give it a stab?
Okay. Well, I would say this idea of integrated and experiential education, which has been important for us. I think that as much as possible, if you can bring service or make the issues that are alive in your community to bring those to your students. I think that that for us, that's been a really important starting point for social justice education. And then I would also say, as you're teaching, if you're teaching Jewish day school or looking at rabbinic texts or things like that, I would say sort of choosing your content so that it's responsive to what exists in the world today. That might be like a big takeaway for me is draw out the connections to social justice issues that are alive in your community and use Jewish text and tradition as a way to explore and examine those issues. And I'll just plug, so you can take a folder, but we have On One Foot, that portal for Jewish text. You can build source sheets, you can sort texts by specific issues if you're looking at hunger or homelessness or a whole variety of issues that might exist in your community. And yeah, I'll just leave it there.
What I would say to that is, these three organizations are just talking about three different ideas.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what I would throw out to all of you is, what are you the most excited about? And it might be one of these things, and to me, it could also be, another organization or another thing that's happening. And I think as everyone knows varies on a gut level, like if you are super fired up about it, you're going to figure out a way, in smaller ways or bigger ways, to make it happen. If you're not persuaded that food is your issue, there are people who are, and that is what's lighting them up and getting them going. But figuring out what that is, and then I think starting from making sure that that's there will help you when you have to balance the multiple demands of work and the rest of your lives.
I would say one other thing, which is we're hiring people who have done these programs. So I would say for Avodah, now there are almost 450 people who could be on your boards, who could work in your institutions, who you could bring in as people, guest speakers, hire them as mentors, whatever it is. If these are the kind of people that you want to have having influence in your programs, figure out how to meet them, call me, and what's going to make your community an attractive place for them to come. I would say that one of the things I think my job is, and what will be a measure of success for our alumni program, is if we can figure out a way how to support alumni to self-organize so that they can say, many of them feel that the organized Jewish community as it currently exists, that those institutions do not speak to them. They are living, many of them are, or a number are living in Moshe House, where that's where they kind of make the focus of their Jewish lives, which I think is terrific in many ways. I also think it's long-term not sustainable. You're going to age out of Moshe House. And so I keep saying, you're not going to have your kids bar mitzvah at the Moshe House. So, you might, but it would be odd. So one of the things that I think we need to help them do is figure out how can, where are the access points of the organized Jewish community, which has buildings and would like young people there, and say we'd be willing to come, but there are some things we'd like this community to look like, and sort of create a space for us to talk about. And we this is what we work on every day. This is how our Jewish identity is constructed. We'd like to bring it here. And so I would say that we have those people and are looking for places for them to be in relationships. So I would be really interested in being a partner to sort of help connect them.
So I'm glad you started this. I want to maybe push a little bit further. Say something that I'm sure is unfair and is a overgeneralization, but let's just play with it for a couple minutes here. One might look at one side of the table here versus another side of the table as representing two really significant cultures in the Jewish world today. We have a kind of established Jewish culture of synagogue and day schools, and then counter